service of CNC Worldwide.
The CNC Daily Podcast is a service of CNC News brought to you by the Greece Chamber of Commerce, providing more than 800 member companies with business solutions since 1984. Well, the virtue of the fast-moving winter storm that hit us is that it's fast-moving on its way out. Behind it, 6.3 inches of heavy, wet snow at the airport, 6.5 inches in Greece, according to a National Weather Service spotter, 5 inches in Rochester. There were multiple accidents Tuesday night and multiple down power lines Wednesday morning. Rochester Gas and Electric reports just over 8,000 customers still without power as of this recording. The bulk of the outages in Monroe County, some others in Wayne, Cayuga, and Allegheny. Rochester's eastern suburbs are the hardest hit. Nearly 1,800 are still out in Pittsford. Other heavily affected towns include Perrenton, Penfield, East Rochester, and Brighton. The western towns got off fairly light this time. RG&E had pre-staged crews, equipment, and supplies at various points around the region so it could go to work immediately last night. Real-time updates on power restoration are at the RG&E website, rgnd.com/outages/outage information, and you find that on the CNC web pages. It's right there embedded in the story on the snowstorm. Rochester ended up as the dividing line between snow and rain from the winter storm. The winter storm warning has been lifted for the Rochester area and surrounding counties. No more than another inch expected before the whole thing blows away. Temperatures stayed mostly above or right at the freezing point. Snow melted as it fell Tuesday evening, but later that night we counted at least 7 crashes as it got colder and began to stick. Eastman Kodak laid off about 40 people on Tuesday, most of them involved in making commercial movie film. That remains one of Kodak's businesses, although the core focus is now on commercial printing and packaging. Kodak says the motion picture film business continues to decline as more of Hollywood shoots digital, forcing the company to make adjustments. U.S. Senator Charles Schumer wants government regulators to allow a Williamson fruit farm to open a new hard cider production line along with its apple vodka distillery. The DeFisher family farm opened Apple Country Spirits last year. It's trying to get faster approval action from the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau to start the cider line in 2014. Schumer is using the DeFisher's case to push a federal law he is backing to amend the tax law on cider production. Hard cider is a popular craft beverage at farm markets, but the sugar content varies naturally in cider, which means the alcohol content of the finished product varies too. Current tax laws that define whether a product is cider or wine and how it's going to be taxed depend on alcohol content, and they weren't written with variations in mind. Farm producers are often taxed at the higher rate, and they can't label their cider as cider if the alcohol content is too high. Schumer wants a do-over on the federal liquor excise tax so that cider is cider, even if it does have variable alcohol content. Monroe County Sheriff Patrick O'Flynn's office says he plans to attend a county legislature meeting next week. He will answer questions at that time about his request for a raise. Media reports say O'Flynn put through a request for a 27% raise, amounting to an additional $37,000 a year in his budget request. County Executive Maggie Brooks put it into her county budget proposal. Sheriff O'Flynn's pay was last raised under an agreement that keeps him on par with the Monroe County District Attorney. The DA Sandra Durley's pay is set by the state. It's due to be raised to $174,000 in the spring. But the proposed raise for the Republican sheriff has Democrats fuming on the county legislature. They call it brain dead. A Monroe County court jury has found Donald Love guilty of second-degree manslaughter and reckless driving for an accident that killed another man almost a year ago. Love was late for work and speeding on December 14th when he passed several stopped cars at Linden Avenue and North Washington Street in East Rochester. Then he ran the red light. His pickup truck crashed into 2 cars, and John Markadis, the driver of the second car, was killed. Love will be sentenced January 22nd. He faces up to 15 years in prison. Governor Cuomo says stepped-up state police patrols begin Wednesday along the thruway and state highways. Additional patrols and unmarked vehicles will be out looking for the usual issues of aggressive or distracted driving, especially texting behind the wheel. Random sobriety checkpoints will be up as well for the holiday weekend. And more than 1,000 law enforcement officers from New York and around the nation attended funeral services Tuesday afternoon in Olean for State Trooper Ross Riley. He was killed last week in a training accident. Trooper Riley fell 30 feet from a rock ledge in Letchworth State Park during a rescue exercise. The investigation into what went wrong continues. Links to these and other stories can be found to the left of the player window on CNC News pages. At the bottom are links you can use to send what you know directly to us. The next news podcast is whenever you happen to click and listen to it, and the updates are as necessary. We're going to take Thanksgiving off, and the Friday schedule is all in a hoo, so we may or may not be up on Friday, but we'll definitely be there Monday to start the rest of the year. So I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.